Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Aids to Scouting. Tonight, as our guest, we're having Mackenzie Sookhoo she's from our council, and she is uh, the lodge chief of the Inato Lodge of the Order of the Arrow. Now, a lot of people around the world don't know what the Order of the Arrow is, but we'll get into that as we talk because I'm sure that people all over the world will be interested, and they'll be interested in how it might relate to their own histories in their countries. But first, we're going to get Mackenzie to talk about becoming a scout, why she became a scout, and what all she's done pursuant to being a scout, and now she's a leader of the Order of the Arrow. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Well, I'm one of the lucky few that started off in Girl Scouts, and it just ended up not being the right thing for me. But uh, when they, in 2019, announced that they were allowing girls into the program, I jumped at the opportunity. My mom helped me jump into the opportunity, and she really wanted to start the first all-female troop. So, really big ambition. I just helped to learn along with that. But I really got locked into like the aspect of camping and all the knot skills. I thought they were really cool. Like I saw boys out there fishing and I was like, I want to do that too. So it just really roped me in and that's where it all started.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a little brother.
Little brother. Is he also in scouts as well?
He was, and that's how I feel like I got to see a lot of what scouting was about at the start.
Mhm.
I followed him most through Cub Scouts, and unfortunately, he quit recently, but he still comes around to some things. Scouting's a big part of his life too.
Mhm.
Um, but definitely, I owe a lot of this to how he started.
Now,
Well, of course, we had your mom on in the his
that was
first season,
yeah,
and
it
she
was.
had just basically gotten back from Philmont. Did you go on the
Mhm.
Philmont trip? I figured
I
you did.
don't know if it's that one. She's gone on two, and I went on the second one.
That's yes.
It
What?
was
Yes.
recent enough.
Well,
Recent.
tell us about your rank and what you did to. I assume you got on up there in rank. Is that correct?
I think I
In
said really
the
special
OA?
right there.
No, and just in scouts.
Oh, in Scouts.
I mean, you got to be a
Um,
first class scout, right? And a
yes.
star scout, a life
Mhm.
scout.
Now,
Th-
I do admit it did take me longer than I wanted to,
Yes.
because I did get caught up in like troop dynamics. I really liked the SPL role and the ASPL role, and so I kept running for those, and I would put my own rank aside and push it off. And then about when I got to about 16, 17, I was like, I need to start back up on that. Um, but yes, sir, I am an Eagle Scout.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
you
Mhm.
said ASPL. Why don't you tell everybody what the structure is of a troop, since you have obviously worked your way up
Well,
through troop structure? Yes. Excuse me, Elliot. Go
no,
ahead.
before we get into that,
Yes.
I want to touch on what she said
Okay.
because and she knows just as many scouts, maybe more than I do, who get caught up in that same thing. And they're a life scout. They get their life scout at 15 or 16, and they'll tail it right along, right up until the very edge of the 18th
Mhm.
birthday. And I did the same thing. In fact, I had my board of review 2 weeks after my 18th birthday. It got rescheduled. Wasn't my fault, but I did push it all the way, right to the very, and it was because of the same thing because a youth can get so involved in the troop dynamics, the leadership roles, the council level stuff. Like I'm sure you probably did in YLT, I imagine.
Yep,
Did you serve on staff for that too?
I did.
Okay, well, there's that. There's the Order of the Arrow, and then the leadership roles within that too. You get so caught up in all the other stuff that you forget. Oh yeah, I got to work on I got to
Mhm.
finish that merit badge. Usually, personal fitness or personal management. Usually,
It's
those
always the
those
timed ones.
those are the last ones. Here in American Scouting, at least. But so many scouts feel that same way that you felt. I felt it. I talked to there's some really good scouts here in the Tussahaw district for the Flint River Council that have gotten caught up in that same thing. They're doing all the council level stuff as much as they can. And don't get me wrong, We need those scouts too, but we can't forget about our own ranks when we're working up to that. I'm sure there's scouts listening probably right this minute that can relate to that same thing.
Well, Mackenzie, I'm not sure if I sound weak, but I think he's gotten so excited he's tripped over his microphone or something.
I do hear that a bit. I could hear you clear, and then it just kind of tapered out.
Yeah. Well, tell us about first. Just I want to hear about your scouting life, and because I want people, um, other young women and girls to think what is it that you got out of scouting, and at what stages. You're
Oh
one
my
of our
goodness.
first. You're one of our first young guests. You know,
Mhm.
we've most of the people we've had are been considerably older than you. Not as old as I am, but
Some of them older than you, Walker.
well, maybe one or two.
Well, I started off as a Sea Scout, surprisingly. That was really skills based. The first things that I learned were like canoe etiquette and the parts of an oar, knots, things like that. What to pack, when to pack it, how to pack it. Um, and then after that, I got into scouting, so like troop level. Um, that was a lot of, I feel like that's where I got more of the leadership out of it because we started with a new troop, you have coming in, nobody really knows what they're doing anyway, so it's a lot of trial and error, and that's where you get the most learning done.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, everything came a little bit more naturally.
Mm-hmm.
For a little bit, I thought of getting into venturing, but that didn't end up happening. But I imagine after that, it's a lot what I dealt with at the new troop level. It'll be easier in venturing.
Let me
Um,
ask you about your new troop level experience because I know just from my own experiences and watching is that sometimes when you're the one that you're one of the youth that helped to start a troop, you get thrown into a leadership role too quickly. Did you experience that?
I don't think I did because I was on the younger side. I wasn't on the older side when we first started.
Okay.
I did get thrown into patrol leader, and I thought that was too much. Then I didn't even imagine what SPL could have been like. But um, after a while, I think about 2 years, I started thinking about SPL, and I thought I had gotten into it too quickly. But everybody around me really helped me out, and they thought that it was the right time for me to get into that role. So
Do you know how long your tenure as a senior patrol leader was? Long
for
time.
our troop, we do 6 months.
Okay.
So we'll go from February to August, and then we'll do another.
Mm-hmm.
But I served 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
How big a troop were you in?
Mm-hmm.
oh goodness, I think the highest point that we got at was 50 or 60 scouts.
Good grief.
That at some point, yes. Recently it's tapered down to about 30. So,
Hmm. Well, that's great. I think that I remember when I was a scout, I thought it was such a great program so that every scout had responsibility and leadership and they had that experience. And so, I remember if the patrol leader and all didn't work it
mm,
out and they didn't do their menu very well and they got out on the camp out and they had problems, well, they'd learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
in the
of course,
beginning, we had quite few of those.
well, tell me about, have you, as a girl, did you feel any friction with all boy troops, or in camp or anything like that, or did everything go mighty smoothly under the circumstances?
We all like to hope that it would go mighty smoothly, but it's never the case. In the start, definitely I was sheltered from what I would have heard,
Mm-hmm.
but later on, I think it was about 3 years ago, so it's a lot more recent than we would think. We went to a camp, and there was specifically a male troop that kept bothering the entirety of our troop at us. That like they would go to merit badges, and it would just be constant like nagging. Sometimes they would throw things. We did the
Very
best that we
scout-like.
could. Hmm?
I said not very scout-like at all.
I know, and you would go to the adults, and sometimes they would just be like, "It's boys being boys," and they would do the best they could to be like, "Stop." And you don't have the adult to youth ratio that would be needed to combat that, because you would need like an adult for every youth, but you can't follow them around, so it's really just everybody looking out for everybody else. And
Yeah, the whole boys will be boys thing. I think it's a silly notion outside of scouts, but for someone inside of scouts, it's like 10 times sillier to
mhm.
say that, because even prior to, admission of young ladies in the program, it's still not scout like to do that.
A scout is courteous.
Yeah, scout is
I mean,
courteous, kind.
what can I say? It's
That, so
Yeah.
it's silly for any scout leader to use that as an excuse of some sort.
Yeah.
And I don't buy it. I don't buy it here. I
Well-
don't accept that here.
Well, tell me, let's go a little bit, if we can kind of move on from a mixed topic to the Order of the Arrow. For those people who are watching that don't know anything about that, the Order of the Arrow was started. What year was that? Do you have any idea, Mackenzie or Elliott? It was probably started in the 1920s.
27, I think.
Yeah, and
I should know that.
well, I should. I've been
Hey, look,
around
I have a
longer than-
computer right here in front of me.
Yeah,
How
there
about
we go. Computer tells us all. But the for those people out in the world, the Order of the Arrow is where
1915.
a scout will be elected from his troop. The troop can't just send any number of people up to the Order of the Arrow. They have to be elected, and then they are initiated into the Order of the Arrow with these. They're not so terribly secret ceremonies, but they are confidential. And tell about, Mackenzie, how did you get involved in the Order of the Arrow?
Tell us about your tap out.
So, well, I feel like it's a little bit of nepotism, because my mom always ends up going through these things before me. But honestly, like the show, but she ended up going through it first, and I was really skeptical because, like, one, your mom's in it. Do you want to be in it too? Two, it's like I'm a little scared. Whatever you hear that they do like ceremonies and secret things, and it's a little scary and daunting. And I was not into the idea at the start, but then I got encouraged by other people actually in the program, and then finally my mom was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's try it." But at that time, our tap out ceremony was really, I think it had a lot of like energy and aura to it. It's like a closing campfire, and everybody goes quiet. There's hundreds of people, and you're just like anticipating something. And they come out with these torches, and then they start talking about like duty, and it just gets it feels intense. It's not actually totally intense, but it's a little bit, yeah. But
Were they in costume?
I remember being, yes, definitely.
And for those who want to know, the Order of the Arrow has a very strong tradition
Boom.
of being of Native American background, because the Scouts has a strong background in that, just like the British Scouts have a strong background in African and Indian stuff that Baden-Powell went through. See, so now we're looking at. I believe that's a heck of a OA thing there with me in it, and that guy's really dressed up. So I've interrupted, but I just wanted to make sure that we started talking about how you're at this big campfire, and this small group dressed as Indians come out, and they're in pretty full regalia, and they're very serious. And it used to be that they would the tap out would they take an arrow and they'd hit it on you 3 times on your shoulder, and on the last one they'd hit it hard enough to break it. And that was back in the good old days when we were tough.
That was back in the days. Now it's still a lot. I feel what we do is they'll be in a field, and we won't have somebody up at the front doing names. We'll have somebody way in the back with a big old microphone and speakers, and so it's you just hear your name echo through the field, and it's like, oh, okay, feels heavy. But
Yeah.
I remember hearing my name, and I was like, I actually got in. I actually got voted in. But after that, they line us all up, and they walk us up to the way from
My
the crowd,
grandpa.
and it's just it feels like
Sorry.
It feels special.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Mhm.
People are being honored for being good scouts and being leaders in their troops, and it's not just everybody that gets to be a patrol leader or senior patrol leader or whatever. They don't just automatically get into the Order of the Arrow. They have to be voted in by their fellow scouts, the whole troop, not just the leaders of the troop or the adults. All right, tell about so. Go ahead. There's a thing that we're now going to talk about that's a little bit more secret. Maybe it's called the ordeal, and that's
yes.
tell us about
Well,
when. Go ahead, Elliot. You want
Sorry, I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to having somebody that's not, super old.
Yeah. All right. I got you.
Sorry. So I can relate to this a lot more. I can.
All right.
There's
Go
so,
ahead.
anyways,
You lead on, McDuff.
First, I want to say my grandpa was in the Order of the Arrow back when he was a scout, and he was a scout around the same time you were, Walker. So he had the experience of the super hard bow, that third one that's supposed to. He's scared because I told him that I got that we're having the vote was coming up in my troop, and he was super sure that I was going to get it. And then he told me all of his story about his tap out, and I was like, I don't think I want them to do that to me, because I had never seen one either. I hadn't even got to see an Order of the Arrow tap out ceremony, and so he's telling me about all this stuff, and I'm like, I hope they don't vote me in. I do not want to go into this. I am not interested in this. And then he told me about the ordeal, which is what we're going to get into, what the current ordeal is. But he told me this wickedly terrifying story where you go and they have the stick that they wrap around your neck, and if you speak 3 times, you speak once, you get a notch on your stick. You speak twice, you get a notch on your stick. You speak 3 times and you're out of there. You're done. You can't do it anymore. And I was like, so we can't even talk? And he said, that's not the worst part. You don't get to eat either. So they don't they don't feed you anything. And I was like, and I'm a big guy, obviously got these big cheeks here. The rest of me, for all of you that don't know what I look like out in the internet worlds, I'm a big fella, and I've always been a big fella, and I'm a hungry guy. And so when he said that there's no food, they won't feed you, and you have to work and do this back-breaking labor, I was super uninterested in being in the Order of the Arrow.
Well, let's hear Mackenzie talk now. That's the old days. That's
the old days.
Ago.
So I'm not saying that it's totally different, but no. So we do it a little bit differently. I feel like from way back in the day, you do get more food, although it is limited because scant food. Yes, we work all day, but it's at the end of the day, don't you always feel rewarded after doing a lot? So, but they do this wonderful thing at the night prior. They do all the work, and they sleep under the stars. And so they'll take their gear and they'll go out into a field or like kind of a patchy tree area, and they'll sleep under the stars for that night. And I think that's like the most beautiful part of the entire ordeal. But
or did you? I assume you had Indian guides, and that they spoke beautiful verse to you. And well, I mean, when I was there, I was the medicine man in the ceremonies, and I don't know if y'all still do that, but it was in full regalia and my face painted white on one side and black on the other. And I memorized long passages, which I would quote, except that they're confidential. But it's blank verse, and it was about how the most one thing I really love to talk about is in the ordeal you now are facing. More than all, I would exhort you strictly keep your pledge of silence. Hours spent in thoughtful silence help us make the right decisions more than days and days of talking.
Impressive.
wow.
Pretty good advice.
Yeah.
Which I've had all these years. I mean, 60 years.
I
So,
feel
and
like sometimes if you have younger scouts that get into the OA, there is an age limit, but
yeah,
when they get in there, a lot of these ceremonies that we have, they get really impactful for them. And if they really listen to some of the verses that are said in the script, it'll hit differently as they get older. Um, but a lot of our ceremonies, because everybody's in full regalia, which I do think they will be changing soon. But
What do you mean?
well, we've had, I think, some pushback with just wearing Native American regalia in general. I don't know if our section is turning over to getting rid of regalia altogether. They're still, I don't even know if I'm allowed to mention this, but they are doing, they're trying to switch over to where we only do uniforms. We'll still have all the motions, we'll still do the scripts, but I don't think regalia is going to be around much longer. I
you
know it's
know,
still being talked about in the national level, but
yeah. Obviously we old men want things to be like they always were, but I always thought that we were preserving culture, not mocking it or not
Mhm.
appropriating it. I mean, we all appropriate culture. If you speak English, you're appropriating English culture, in a sense. And so I've always thought that the preservation and respect that scouting gave to the Native Americans, or for that matter, the scouting in England gives to the African troops with whom Baden Powell served. I always think that's important, but modern life is full of a lot of Karens who want to tell everybody how to change their lives and make themselves better, I think. But we
But
don't
then
have to get too political.
no, then again, I do love the just the scout uniform and its full entail with everything,
Mhm.
the whole dress uniform. It's a nice uniform, so it'd be nice if
Mhm.
all the scouts would, adhere to that. But hey, I still wear jeans. It's fine.
And I feel like if we start doing the uniform, I feel like we can get patches that we can put on it to make it a little bit more, you
Yeah,
know, decorated for
yeah.
those who end up doing like performing in ceremonies.
Hmm.
But it's
I
been a
know.
difficult journey with that, so we'll just see where it ends up eventually.
I've
Yeah.
noticed quite a few really nice specific order the arrow patches that you can like council patches
Hmm.
and even some rank patches and things, or not rank, but I guess position patches. Like if you
Yes.
remember, I think that's really nice, and the
I
scout
was
leaders who do that are
just
cool.
I was just at a conclave this weekend, which conclave is the entire section, all the lodges come together
Hmm.
and they compete in games, they have fun, they go to training sessions about various things. But it's a whole weekend of just a whole bunch of fellowship.
Hmm.
And one of those things is patch trading, and these guys go crazy with patch trading. Each lodge ends up with their own patch design for that event. They have past ones. You have ones that are crazy about it. They'll have stuff ranking all the way back to the 60s, and it's just crazy to watch. Yep, there we go. Personally, I was never into the patch trading, but sometimes you can appreciate a really good looking patch.
Well, just since we're on the patch subject, back in 2010, we did the 100-year anniversary of scouting in America, and they did some special merit badges, and here's two of them. This one is woodworking merit badge, or not? No, it's called something else. And
Carpentry, probably.
carpentry. No, no,
Mm.
because carpentry still exists, doesn't it? I
I
don't
know
know.
woodworking still exists.
Woodworking does. So you're right, Walker. It must be carpentry. But they had these gold borders. So far, these are the
Mhm.
coolest patches I own. Thanks, Will Clancy, for these patches. Shout out.
I know him.
He went to a conclave as well. In
He
fact,
was
a
there.
lot of Inito, there was a big representation at conclave, was there not?
A good 50 some odd of us.
Wow, that's
Yep.
great.
Mhm.
That's great. And that's in Alabama, you said?
This time, yes, it was Moundville, Alabama. We camped near the uh, Native American mountains.
Oh,
That's where this one was. It was in the not national. It was in the park.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I recently wrote a novel. Oh well, but it's called Radium Springs, and it starts off down at Kolomoki Mounds, which is where my grandmother was born. And So, and then I was looking at it just today and how Kolomoki is lined up with about 8 other mounds over a 150-mile stretch. So it has um, that unexplained reason why these things are lined up, and just like the Pyramid of Egypt and the Kahia mounds over in St. Louis, there's a tremendous interest these days in ancient times and ancient astronomy and how did they accomplish it? Where did have you ever been to Rock Eagle, Mackenzie?
I think so.
Rock
Actually.
Rock Eagle's a state park, but you can go up in a tower and look down on this Rock Eagle, where I guess quartz rock was brought there from, I guess people for years and centuries would bring a quartz rock there, and then they'd put them in this big eagle thing that can only be seen from the sky. When you're on the ground level, you don't realize it's an eagle.
They use that as it's a 4-H club there as well, right? Down at
Yeah.
Rock Eagle.
Yeah, but
you mentioned that you started in Girl Scouts. How far did you go in Girl Scouts? Did you get your gold award as well?
I did not. I do know one person who's currently working on her gold, and I think that's really cool. She's trying to get Eagle, Gold, and Summit for Venturing. She's trying to get all three.
Wow.
I did not end up doing that. I got to my last year in junior year of like, because they go like Daisy, Brownie, Junior. I stopped there. It was around the start of middle school for me. I was just falling out of it.
Yeah, you're spending a lot more time doing this type of scouting too.
Yes.
Which, I mean, yes, you can do both, but there's so much.
It's so difficult.
On the guys' side, it's a lot of it's either sports or scout, girls too, but sports or scouts. You can do both, but it's hard. It is hard. It's a lot of stuff, and some kids don't. Some families just don't have the time and resources to put together to make it all happen. So if I was going to do one, it was going to be scouts for sure. Most. I did like that the most.
Well, Mackenzie, what are you doing these days? Do you have a job, or you going to college, or
I currently go to a junior college.
Yes.
Not quite as expensive, which I'm very happy for. A lot of my time, I came to this college because I can shoot here. I do marksmanship, so I do air rifle and 22s. And it's precision, so I get in a whole suit and then I shoot something the size of a ballpoint pen tip, and hope like I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I think I'm pretty good. Definitely not the best, but I'm looking to go transfer to another college that has a better team. Not that this one's not great, but I'm looking for something like a little higher in level.
You've been doing precision rifle shooting for 2 years?
Yes, I started my junior year of high school.
How were you introduced to that?
Funny enough, scouting. So I took the rifle merit badge at one of the summer camps. Don't remember which one it was at, but I really liked. I was always been good at like marksmanship or aiming and throwing something. My accuracy has always been pretty good, and so when I got behind the gun and I was shooting like dimes every other shot, it became a little bit addictive. But after that, I ended up seeing at my school's club fair, they had a team, and I was like, I want to try that out. And so I ended up sticking with it and got me on the team. My senior year of high school, we won state championships.
Wow.
So that was quite a journey.
That's been talked about several times on our podcast, about specifically females marksmen. I mean, I guess marks women at this point, right?
Marks people.
There you go.
Of course, marks people sound like communists.
I don't know. I might even just go and say marks women, because what we've been saying, what's come up as a theme on the show is females typically tend to be better shooters of most respects, whether it's archery, whether it's
Mm.
slingshot, or of course rifle.
I was just at a competition, I think 2 weeks ago,
Hmm.
um, called the Junior Olympics,
Hmm.
and for the applicants, there's like 100 and some odd women, but there were only about 50 men,
Yeah.
and it was just a very big difference. Like, the men had their own relay, and then it was like 3 other relays of women. It was
We gotta
crazy.
have a shooting sports category and then a men's shooting sports category, like over off to the side, because it's getting there. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's they said there's heartbeat, just a controlling of the motion,
Mm.
with a fast heartbeat, or being able to slow down the heartbeat. It's pretty interesting. Lots of good science that I don't know about.
I
We
was
do a
going to
lot
say,
of, we
Mackenzie, have you ever been up to the Bechtel Scout Reserve that the Scouts have up in West
I've only been to
Virginia?
Philmont.
Well, this is up in West Virginia, and they have
Mm.
that there's a ravine that they've where it's this great rifle range where they have
Mhm.
a covered shed on one side with all the shooting positions, then a ravine that all the underbrush is cut out of, and on this other side, targets. So I went to the World Jamboree, and there were like 35,000 scouts from all over the world. And it's the first time they had shooting sports at a World Jamboree. And boy, those kids from all over the world, those scouts wanted to shoot. And they were using not 22s, but they were using like 222s and 308s.
Oh my
And they
goodness.
and they also and they also shot shotguns and 9mm pistols, not just 22 pistols.
Yep.
And they had all these NRA type people that were like 500 of them on the staff. And of course, they had no accidents, and they shot up 1,000,000 rounds or more. So it was great. And they were lines, and they also had muzzle loading guns. Have you ever shot muzzle loading guns? Oh, then I'll
Like a
have,
musket and everything? Nope.
yeah, I will have to. I've got a couple of them. Let's go shoot them sometime.
That sounds so fun.
It is. Have you shot shotguns
I
much?
have.
We had a guy named Steve Fry, a friend of mine, was on here, and he runs the shooting sports over at Cross Point, over in northwestern Pike County, Cross Point Christian, and they have skeet and rifle shooting and archery. Have you enjoyed archery also?
Most of the shooting ones, I've done them. After that
Yeah,
rifle one, I wanted them after one after another.
yeah, that sounds great. Well, I always think about again Indian lore, and the use of archery, and of course atlatls. I don't know if you've ever tried one of those spear throwers, but I haven't either. But and then of course there's always a sling. So tell us what's next, Elliot, for this
Yard
for.
darts. Have you done yard darts?
Oh,
I'm pretty good with a slingshot. Can you do
yeah.
that? Have you ever used a slingshot?
Ka-dink.
What's next? I don't know. What can we talk about next?
Well, I want to. Uh, if you were talking to what percentage of girls do you think American girls these days um, would enjoy scouting? I mean, and going camping in bad weather. You know, well, I mean,
Who really likes going camping in bad weather?
well, the truth of it is you have to be able to go
Mhm.
camping in bad weather. Just like if you're sailing, you've got to be able to sail in rough weather. It's not enough just to go out on a 10-mile-an-hour breeze on a big lake. It's like you
Mm.
got to be able to survive a storm.
Mm.
And I'm sure, and shooting, I think, is very much like that. I suggest to people that even if they're kind of very afraid of guns, their children need to understand firearm safety through the use of it. And but I was going to ask you if we were to say recruiting more girls to be in scouts, what are your views of that in terms of how do we get more young people into scouting?
Well, I think a lot of what, like, the fun merit badges that we always have to offer, that always gets them. Um, I feel like sometimes what a lot of people look for in this program is the leadership aspect, and that's a big thing in it. Um, but they always think they can get it from a school club, from a sport. This is a different type of leadership, I feel. Um, you're working with so many people and so many different conditions that I don't feel like you can get anywhere else. And advertising that along with, the fun things you can do outside, um, the trainings you can get, NYLT, you can get some first aid trainings, and a lot of those outdoor skills that people generally need is a great thing to tell young folk because who doesn't love starting a fire? um,
Or a pocket.
uh,
Oh, everybody loves
Everybody loves the pocket. Yeah, everybody loves the pocket knife. Yeah, things like that. Sometimes rope skills. People love being able to tie knots because it's just something funky you can show your friend, like, hey, I can do this better than you can, and then you end up teaching them too. So
Or
simple
did you?
things sometimes.
What about on the aquatics? Did you?
Ooh, I totally forgot about aquatics.
Yeah, well, aquatics. I've always thought that the two most important skills that we try to make sure all scouts are good at by the time they're first class or star is life saving and first aid. Because first aid is something that just lasts your whole life. You've got to keep almost honing your skills and practicing them your whole life.
Mhm.
But what about life saving? Did you find that a difficult merit badge to get?
So funnily enough, I ended up going through lifeguarding. I ended up getting that certification before I took life saving. And so when I took life saving, it was just a really big recap without the tube.
Yeah.
Which I didn't find it too hard, but I was able to help people in my class as well. So it was just, I actually thought it was fun.
Well, did you ever work? I knew a girl that made Eagle Scout, Johnson's daughter. Who was our council
Mhm.
executive, and they were earning good money as lifeguards at private pools during the summertime. I mean, good
Mhm.
money, and
Me
a
too.
lot more than I ever earned. So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Elliot.
I was agreeing. I was like, yeah, I made
Yeah,
money with that lifeguard certification.
yeah.
I wanted to say too to Mackenzie, I got the life saving merit badge before I did lifeguard training, and that gave me this weird confidence around the waterfront staff at summer camp. So
Mhm.
I was always like, "Oh, I know how to do all this stuff too." And then I went to the lifeguard class. I was like, "I didn't know any of this stuff." I
You'll
didn't know.
actually see that so much at summer camp. It's funny. I've lifeguarded for like 2 or 3 of them,
Hmm.
and the amount the amount of, youth that just they're like, "I know how to do that," and they'll start running on the dock, and you're like, "Don't do that either."
Yep.
It's just
You're like, you're
oh,
off to a terrible start.
yeah.
So you did waterfront staff for the past 2 summers.
I skipped one of them, but I don't
Mhm.
remember which one it is, but yes, I was down there quite a bit.
Yeah, my
Mhm.
oldest is about to hopefully serve on waterfront staff. She's been hired for staff, but is a little undecided. And I was like, listen, there you've got the staff, and then you've got aquatic staff. Like
They're always
they're like there's this super cool group that you just once you're in, you're in.
Mhm.
You're
They're the
really
coolest on camp. They're like all the youth love them,
always have a
and they got a weird bond all the time. Like they're always the closest group ever.
yes, oh yes. And you know what's funny about that? They always have their finger and toenails painted too, because
Yep.
that murky water will change the color of your nails if you don't
I
cover.
admit I did that too. We painted them like crazy,
Yeah.
like pink one year.
Mhm.
You had all the guys also wearing pink on everything, and they're like, "Look at the bedazzlement."
It's just such a fun. It's a fun fellowship of that,
Mhm.
and very specific to summer camp staff. Very very
Yes.
specific.
Well, how long were you in a Sea Scout
Yes.
Oh,
organization?
it was a few months,
A few
not
months.
even a year. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought that I've never gone out with a Sea Scout group, but I always thought that was a great part of scouting.
Hmm.
When Baden Powell was young, his brother had a boat, and they went all around in the seas around Great Britain, and they also had a folding canoe that they took all the way across up the Thames and across through Wales, and
Wow.
portaging and all that. So they were real outdoor people back then. Have you ever taken a long canoe trip, Mackenzie?
Yeah, the first first canoe trip I ever did, it was I don't even remember how many miles it was downriver. We stopped for lunch, and I was like, "Okay, it's not too much that further to go." And it's like, "We're not even halfway there." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" But I was part of a special group that didn't have an extra adult, so we had to also paddle back out. It's one of those things where you paddle in and then you'll switch with the group that walked in, they'll paddle out. I paddled in and paddled out. So that was a whole bunch of arm work that time.
Mm.
I don't know how many miles we went, but it was a lot for my first time. And I will always remember that just because of how different it was to me. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. I didn't think it was possible that you could just canoe into a campsite and then stay there
Hmm.
and then canoe out.
Well, we last week, you might want to look at our guy last week. Man, he was talking about this big swamp base over in Louisiana, and so we put a link out there, Elliott. To
Yeah,
say,
yeah. It was
yeah.
His name's Ben Pierce. He's the executive director of BSA Swamp Base down there,
Oh wow.
and we were talking to him, and he mentioned he said this, and I didn't respond to him right then and there, but I wanted to. He said it's not that bad because when you're sitting down most of the time, and I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, man. I was exhausted when I went
You
to
have
go
the
here.
sun, you have the arms.
Oh gosh. And up in Minnesota, at least, the bugs, the mosquitoes, and you're just I was 14, and I was just like, at one point, still the biggest guy. So I also did the portaging, and then the smaller kid who couldn't carry the backpack. I carried the backpack and then portaged the canoe on top. And then I got back in and paddled some more. And I'm like, I think I hate this actually. I don't think I'm a leader. This is not for me, I don't think. Of course, I felt different at the end, but yeah.
Mackenzie, I think I've mentioned on one of these programs, but when I was 14, we six of us scouts went down from Atlanta to Franklin, Georgia. It was about a 5-day trip, no adults, and camping out wherever we wanted to along the way. And it was that was the good old days when when parents said, "Yeah, okay, you can go out there." But they
That
did.
sounds really fun though.
Well, they had faith in us that we knew enough about, but of course we didn't have cell phones, and so if there'd been a problem, there'd have been a problem. But we all had, I mean,
If
but
there's a problem, there would have been a problem.
well, like a lot of problems, you can call up and then they send in a helicopter and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
if somebody had drowned out there or something like that, which you just have to find the body and put it in the canoe or something. Uh, but we all knew first aid. We knew how to, get through bad weather. What the snakes were that we needed to keep an eye out for. It was pretty. Have you ever been down to Okefenokee Swamp, Mackenzie, with a scout group?
I haven't. My brother has though.
Yeah, yeah. Those are great adventures. And this guy last week, he was talking about how they start off on the first day going paddling 15 miles or something like that, and then sleeping on a platform.
Yep.
Yep. It
I
sounds.
love the scouts.
Yeah. Well, tell us about if you were gonna tell a girl from Europe why she might want to go to Philmont and go on one of those expeditions. What would you tell her? Just
Oh my goodness.
some Swedish girl that really needs to get out there and go on a long hike.
Well,
Maybe.
Swedish. I mean, they've already got mountains out there, so it's like, how much more can you tell them?
And you've got a
Well,
good point there.
yeah, but okay. I would say that we have in Philmont, you end up trekking to different camps, and at those camps, they have different themes for things. I don't remember the name of the camp that it was, but it was really like a coal mine back in the day kind of vibe. The staff slept in a cabin. They would take you into a part of a mine, show you where they would have dug, how they would have dug. I think in that mine there's still like an emergency box for like back in the day if there was a cave in, what would be left in there to get out. They still have the railroad tracks. It's like there's still history on the camp and the entire ranch. It's a lot, and it's so hard to describe in words after being there, because I used to think that, because my mom came back after and she's like, I just can't tell you how it was, you need to just go. And that's a lot of what Philmont is just, you can take all the pictures you want, but most of it is a crazy experience that only you have to be there to get. Like, and everybody who ends up going, they get, you know, you think it's a lot of secondhand fun, like you're miserable in the moment, but then later on you're like, that was actually pretty fun. But there's a lot of moments where the group as a whole just kind of meshes together. They have a stronger bond, and that is also a big part of it.
Well, you said something about in Sweden they have a lot of places to walk. Well, I've got some friends there, and one time we actually went out with my friend and his girlfriend, and we were out in Lapland through the forest for like 5 days, and another time over the mountains and stayed in with some Laps. But I met my
5-day minimum in the woods.
Yeah. When we went on that thing with the Laps, I mean the mosquitoes were just amazing how many there were down in those low valleys, and we stayed in a Lap hut. And but I met my friend through scouting at the World Jamboree in 1963. So
we're gonna have to have an AIDS to Scouting bingo card.
Yeah.
Where you mentioned your Swiss friend. I don't know if you've seen these, Mackenzie, but
I have.
probably once every 3 episodes.
My goodness.
So, I gotta brag, yeah.
No, it's a good thing. I think it's great because these are if we somehow garner like fans through this.
No, yeah.
They're gonna be like the Swedish. He said it. He said it.
Ja, vi kan prata i svenska. I Sverige är det mycket bra. So,
that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I practice it. Some, not much, but some. Mackenzie, are you taking any foreign languages? Have you in school and all?
I did in high school, and I don't know if I'm going to take it any further, but.
What did you take? Did you take Spanish? Yeah.
And it did help me out at the time because I went on a school trip to Costa Rica that summer. And so it helped a little bit, but I was like,
You're still like, hey, do y'all speak English? And
yeah.
like, yes. And they're like, oh, good.
They're like, yeah, I could tell already. And it's just like,
well, when we talked a while ago about how y'all, how OA is considering dropping a lot of the Indian stuff, I keep looking at you and thinking how great you would look in Indian attire because your hair is long. I mean, just great. It's the right color and all. And
I got to see her do that at Klondike, this most recent Klondike, and she came out in the full headdress and everything, and put on a great presentation for Well, we had a tap out ceremony there, and she performed the whole tap out, and I thought it was great. It really does give you that. What did you say? The vibe and the aura of it.
Yeah.
It's like wow, I really feel it in my soul. This is super serious.
Yeah,
like that. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have all these. I have this whole volumes about Native Americans, the tribes of the southern woodlands.
Oh wow!
See, and so I know I just know a lot about it. I guess, or maybe not as much as many people, but it's just an endless source of interest to me. And but see, look at this. This looks like you, Mackenzie. See?
I would like to venture to ask, what's your opinion of would you rather them keep or do away with it? And
I think they should keep it. I think I should give my opinion. I think they should keep it because like what Mr. Chandler said, that it's a way of preserving it and in real time. Like you can look at a book and you can be like, oh, okay, but if you actually see it and see people wearing it, it takes a different mental image to see it. And I did all that regalia last time because I felt like that they might be phasing it out, and I wanted the people who are going in now to at least see it before it totally goes away.
Well, excellent choice.
So
Excellent
Look,
choice indeed.
this is that book I was telling you about, Radium Springs, and so one of the things is that I think that's important is let's call it the nature worship that's part of that whole culture, and where it's so easy for city dwellers to get away from that, and they go to their churches, but they're not. I mean, when the Indians talk about the Great Spirit or Manitou or whatever, I think that's a value that's not anti-Christian at all, and I think that a scout is reverent, and when a scout's reverent, that includes a reverence for nature itself, and which I think that our native population, that's the forebears of many of us. I mean, most of us who've been in America for a long time have some Native American blood, if not a lot, in us, and so it's just something, that preservation. I'm glad to hear you say it, especially since
You're the lodge chief.
I mean, you would look so good like that. I mean, is that something?
Heck,
we
I'd
do.
probably look good like that.
Inito Lodge does have a tribe. I don't remember where they're out of, and it's terrible of me to say that, but we do keep in contact with the chief from a tribe. We invite them to our ceremonies. If they notice anything that's not representative of them, we ask them to let us know, that so we can change it. But we have a letter from them that states that what we're doing is all right, and they support it, and we keep in contact with them to make sure that still happens and that we keep it up to date.
Yeah, I when I was at that OA thing where you took the picture of the guy and had that big turkey thing
Here
on.
it is again, just in case.
Yeah, well, I wish I had a picture. They had a drum set there that was made by, I think, a tribe in Oklahoma, and it was a very good quality drum with a big leather thing that they'd keep the beat on, and it was just great. I wish I owned one of them, and because drums are just great, and they add so much heart to a ceremony. Here's a look at this one. This is a feather robe right there. And and in my book, they talk about the feather robe that the person wears at the ceremonial things, and of course they played lacrosse. Now, if we're going to fight cultural, what's the word they use these days? Appropriation. Then I guess everybody should quit playing lacrosse, and only allow Native Americans to play lacrosse. So much for
Isn't that funny? That's a French word.
Lacrosse.
No.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
I like how we all just did our own French. All three of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be. I mean, here's a picture of them getting ready to have a big lacrosse game, and the people would travel all over. Tribes would have a piece like they would in the Olympics games in ancient Greece. They'd have these piece where they'd all come and get together for these huge games of lacrosse, or they called them other names like, I forget, Apalachicola or something like that. But
that's the name of the swamp that we talked about last week.
Yeah, that it is. But at any rate, they had
He's piecing in pieces from last week.
Yeah, that's right. So everybody needs to check in about last week, but and then
promo.
That's right. That's right. Oh, look, I found right
another
here in the same book. I found a picture of the Rock Eagle.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing's big, and it's where you'd have to be in an airplane to even be able to see it.
There's another one called Rock Hawk, I think, that's close to Eatonton. Or Eatonton, Georgia. I don't know.
Well, that's what this is.
Eatonton.
No, this is Rock Eagle. Rock Eagle's near Eatonton.
Yeah.
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 There's another one called Rock Hawk that's like a third of the size of that one.
Oh, okay.
That's not too far away, but they've got a cool lookout
Mhm.
tower you can go check it out at too. But Rock Hawk and Rock Eagle,
Yeah.
I never did.
Well, well, another thing, I don't know if when you were in Scouts, Mackenzie, I don't know. I say when you were in Scouts, obviously you're still in Scouts,
Yes.
but we would go to things like Etowah Mounds, or the Scouts would go to the mounds down in Macon, and the that whole culture is just part of what we do as Scouts. And Order of the Arrow, they weren't talking about English longbows when they started the Order of the Arrow.
Mhm.
They were talking about Americans. So,
Well, tell me, Mackenzie, if you would, what do you look forward to up next? What's the next thing? What's the next in the chapter for the chapter?
For the lodge, I know that we have another ordeal coming up, so we're gonna get a whole bunch of ceremonies and hard work coming in. Um, and then we have a fall fellowship after that. But I look forward to the fall fellowship. Which for that, I know I mentioned conclave. That's the fall fellowship for us is where we train for conclave because they have a whole bunch of games that we end up doing. We train for that. Fall fellowship is like a mini conclave for us. We have a lot of fun. We patch trade. We hang out. That's what I look forward to the most.
Good. Well, go ahead, Walker.
no, I was wondering if you're thinking about into the future. Do you think you'll end up being a scoutmaster or assistant
Oh goodness.
scoutmaster and all that sort of stuff? Do you?
I
It usually
don't
falls
know.
as a duty on all of us. It's right.
Sometimes, yeah.
We got so much out of it, we know we have to put it back in.
That's what I feel like I'm starting to do now, actually.
Yep.
I've considered an ASM in my own troop, so it's just
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yep.
already there then. And
There
plus,
you go.
just like we were talking about earlier, from all the work you've already put in at the council side and the lodge side and all that extra stuff when you forgot about your own rank, basically, it's, we've been doing so much, and you're one of the types of people, it sounds like and seems like, that you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay right in that scout vein. That scout train keeps on chugging along, and that's bringing us. We'll be wrapping up here pretty soon. We kept talking about last week, but I want to say that this is going to be our last week for a couple of weeks. This is our end of our season 2, episode 15. We're trying to do 15 every season. So we're going to take a little bit of break. I don't know if it'll be 2 weeks or 1 week. We'll just see.
What a way to end out.
Yes. Well, it's a good, Mackenzie, you've been very nice, and it's really good. No, it's good to talk to people who doing the hands-on work of leadership, and I'm glad that I always thought about scouting not as where a kid doesn't want to be a scout and take on responsibilities. Now you sound like you're that's a way to sell it, especially to girls. And of course, most people have noticed these days that girl units are more organized and well run than boy units are, because the girls are more mature a little early. They mature a little earlier, and they understand the responsibilities of life that they need to train for and get ready for, and that training and leadership is a part of that. So maybe that's where there's an attraction for girls, and the boys are thinking more like climbing up a rock wall or running around in the woods with hatchets or something. I don't know.
Sometimes you get both in
there we
both
go.
senses too.
Yeah.
Trust me, we still have girls in the troop that would rather run around with a hatchet in their hand. So
that's great. That's great.
That's
all right. Well,
well,
thank you so much. Yes, Elliott?
I want to just do since it's our season finale, if you will. I just want to give a special thank you to our list of guests. We had, for season 2, we had Frank Harper, Zeb Chandler, Steve Fry, Bob Barr, Alex Bennett, Mike from Scoutadelic, Michelle Bard from the Girl Scouts, Harold White, Mike Beer, and then we had me and you. We had Douglas Young. We had Mike Hoponsky, Greg Joyner, Ben Pierce, and finally Miss Mackenzie Sookhoo. And thank you very much for being on the show tonight. I look forward to seeing you at our lodge stuff when I come around again. And maybe you come back on the show again and talk about it. Talk about whatever your next step in scouting is.
Mm-hmm.
Walker,
Yes.
thank you for a wonderful season 2. And thank you everyone who's watching right now, and thank you everyone who's watching later, and before and after and next season. You'll see us again. Aids to Scouting.
May the great Scoutmaster of all great scouts be with you till we meet again.
Good night, Scouts.
Good night.